massive shout out is set and in store for the one and only Ernest Dickerson. Yes, the legendary director of Juice and so many, actually a ton of TV stuff as well. Nonetheless, very quick, very fun, very awesome Q&A with the legend. Let's jump right into it on the 30th anniversary of the one and only Juice film.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll jump right into it, man. You know, one of the biggest things, and I know you've gotten this a gazillion times probably already, Ernest, is, 30 years, obviously such a massive anniversary. I know, I love the 25-year anniversary, but, 30 years, 5 more years added to the legacy. What's the biggest takeaway for you, putting on so many young actors, your first, directorial debut, just kind of, what is it that you take away the most from such an accomplishment?
I'm just surprised that interest in the film has lasted so long. When you're making a movie, you're just trying to get it done. You're doing the day-by-day slog of getting it made. But I'm just glad that the movie has resonated and the interest still exists to this day.
No, for sure. And Ernest, let me ask you this. Just kind of becoming a fan for a moment, or that diehard viewer that just puts Juice up there with the classics like, Boys in the Hood, New Jack City, some of those classic films that are just so much a part of not only culture, but hip-hop culture in particular. What is it that you think people take away the most? Is it the Tupac? Is it the overall story? Is it just the soundtrack? There's so many elements that when pieced together make this so much of a timeless stamp.
I like to think that maybe it's all of those. I think the story definitely is something that still resonates today. The problems that young African-American men and young men have growing up in their different neighborhoods, some of them are the same ones that we had before. The prevalence of guns in America and among so many of our youth is still a big problem. I'm happy that I was able to put together such a great cast, who just, I think resonated with people and still resonates to this day. So I'm really surprised. For years, I kind of let Juice go out of my mind, and then my daughter told me that she and her friends were having juice parties where they would watch the movie and recite the dialogue. And I was like, no, you got to be kidding me. I couldn't believe it, So, but then, that's what happened. And then, we found a renewed interest in it when my wife spearheaded the putting together the 25th anniversary DVD and Blu-ray 5 years ago. And the response that we got from it was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And to find out that it's still lasting to this day, and to see Juice released on 4K.
Yes.
I just bought a 4K Blu-ray player, so I'm gonna be watching my copy.
No, and Ernest, I gotta tell you, man, that 4K is no joke, because I remember maybe about 6 months ago, I got what I thought was a 4K Blu-ray player, but it was only certain films work with it. So, when you get that real, 4K UHD, and then, you got it hooked up to the HDMI cables and all that, the experience is insane. And I haven't had a chance to look at it. It's just absolutely stunning.
I'm looking forward to it.
Definitely. A few things that I really want to throw at you. I am a movie fanatic myself. This is Cyrus talking from ATC. And Ernest, I just got to know, do you enjoy the fact that, those diehards, those folks that are throwing juice parties can just get lost in all those bonus features? There's so much in there. Obviously, seeing you in there, but even seeing that vintage footage of the entire cast. I think it was, Stay in the Scene or something along those lines, where I know you make a cameo at the end with Pac and everybody laughing, but just seeing all that additional footage, I feel, and your director's commentary as well, is the reason why home entertainment is thriving so much.
Yeah, that was, I love that, because, those 4 guys, were incredible young men, and to hear them talk about their attitudes towards the film and their characters and the themes of the film, I think really goes a long way. Is really quite interesting. The great thing about Tupac was that when we were shooting the film,
mm-hmm.
he always had a notebook. And, he would always, in between setups, he would always go in a corner and write. And he always tried to connect with people in the neighborhood.
Yep.
You know, he would see somebody that he thought was interested, that he thought maybe was going through something, and he would go over and talk to them, and then he would go and write it in a notebook. And I like to think that was what was fueling his music when he finally got to record his first albums. So, you know, it was an incredible time. I'm really proud of those four young men. We miss Tupac to this day. You know, I'm in contact with his family. We spent a lot of time this past summer with his family in Atlanta, and you know, they're all part of my extended family now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, you know, just hearing them tell their stories and their impressions and everything on that are great. And I just love the fact that my original ending is in the extras as well, because the studio made me cut the ending, which was something that in the 25 years since the film came out, it always bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
It always, you know, the studio threatened to not support the film if I didn't cut it and soften the ending, because it was a much softer ending than my original. And, you know, it's just one of those things you just live with and hate all those years. But finally, the world was able to see it.
Yo, I love that part too, Ernest, because, you know, having watched it, and I think that segment, I'm just looking at my notes real quick. I think that segment specifically was the whole "You've Got the Juice Now" segment. And I love how just honest and raw you were. And not only just for you, but how, you know, you reference how Pac was just like kind of stunned. He was like, yo, this is how Bishop should have went out. And I even love the fact that you reference the whole, I'm going to do a half-ass scream, you know, like that. That is the reason why I tell people all the time, like, you know, you gotta own movies to get to get your commentary alone, but to get like the realness. You know, I remember with Jordan Peele and I think the Get Out film, he had a whole alternate ending and explained why it didn't play out. Those are so crucial for the diehards and for the people to really get your true vision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when the reviews came out, you know, everybody acknowledged that the original ending was the best one.
Yep.
So.
For sure. A few more things I want to throw at you, Ernest. I know we're on a very tight-knit time schedule, but, you know, one thing that I'm always curious to get from, you know, filmmakers like yourself, and I mean, gosh, you got so much history in the game. You've rubbed elbows and worked with so many iconic people, of course, Spike Lee, but, you know, the whole box office in theaters versus the streaming. Now, of course, you've done so much work in the TV world, so maybe you can be a little bit more lenient to the streaming world, but just kind of, you know, the overall love and passion, is it always going to be that big theater box office success, or have you kind of, you know, opened to the reality of, you know, streaming is really becoming more and more bigger and bigger? Just kind of how do you balance both of those worlds, or are they interconnected ultimately?
Well, you know, streaming has actually allowed us to see material that probably would never be seen theatrically.
Mm-hmm.
I do miss the theatrical experience of sharing a film with an audience, with a bunch of other people.
Mm-hmm.
I do miss that, but, you know, I think we're seeing some content that's coming out that would never be seen if it wasn't for the streaming service. So it's given a lot of younger filmmakers, a lot of African Americans and people of color, Asian filmmakers, Hispanic American filmmakers, you know, a platform to show their work, you know, because a lot of times what used to decide what got made was what would the weekend opening box office be.
Mm-hmm.
Now we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about trying to break records in the opening weekend. You know, films can be released on streaming and have what used to be called legs. They can be in there for a while and take a time to find an audience. You know, they don't have to find the audience right away. You know, people can take the time to discover films. And I think we're seeing some content out there that would never be seen in a theater.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so in many ways, I think it's been a boon. I think it's been really great, especially for young up-and-coming filmmakers.
Absolutely. Oh man, it's so unfair, Ernest. I'll just throw one more thing at you. Just kind of a quirky thing. One thing that I absolutely love about the juice culture, and the one of the reasons why I know it will never end is because of the memes. And I'm just always curious if you've ever caught on, or if your daughter or even wife have ever showed you any of those crazy memes like Bishop and Q on the elevator or even at the locker. That have just become so connected with hip hop when like some like beef or drama's going down. People always make fun and use those memes. Has that ever caught your attention or your eye?
Yeah, what really blew me away was some people were producing images on the internet about Juice done as a Pixar film.
Wow.
As an animated film, which was really interesting because that's actually something, even before we saw that, that's something that my wife and I were working on. It's one of the things that we want to try and do is do Juice the prequel.
Wow.
As an adult animated series.
Oh my goodness!
And that's something we're still working on. The story of before Juice, and we have the full blessing of the Tupac estate to use his image and his voice. And but there was some really interesting illustrations of what our characters, what those four guys would look like as animated characters, it's done by Pixar. So that to me was a big that was a blast seeing that.
Absolutely. I will let you go, Ernest, the legend. Thank you so much for taking some time out, and congrats on the 30-year anniversary.
Thank you. Great talking to you.
Take care, guys.
Stay safe and healthy.
Absolutely. Take care, guys. And there you have it. Another one is in the books. The one and only Ernest Dickerson, the legend. Yes, came through for an amazing Q&A. Can we please, Pixar, can we make this Juice prequel a reality? Who wouldn't love that? Come on, hip hop. So many dope gems from this Q&A. We need a part 2. Please, we need a massive part 2. We need like 35 minutes with the legend. So nonetheless, you know what to do. Subscribe, turn on your notifications, make sure to have some fun. Stay tuned. A lot more dope stuff is coming your way from attacktheculture.com.